Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and members of the Indian community from across the United States, a warm and heartfelt welcome to all of you at India House. We have gathered here to celebrate the deepening ties between India and the United States and its people. It is indeed the bright colors of friendship that signify the comprehensive global strategic partnership between our two great nations. Today, we are joined by officials from US administration, leading business leaders, professionals, and a large Indian diaspora from across the United States. I welcome you all. We'll commence today's proceedings with a moment of solemnity and as we pay respects to the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Day after tomorrow, that is 2nd October 2023, will mark Mahatma Gandhi's 154th birth anniversary, and his legacy of peace and non-violence continue to inspire us all. I would request Honorable EAM Sir and Ambassador Sir to offer the floral tributes. Thank you, sir. Moving forward, we dive into the deep cultural diversity of India. We start our today's program with the famous Garba dance. Garba is a traditional folk dance from the western Indian state of Gujarat. The performance is done by Studio Doom and the artists are Kavya Velaga, Shriya Amin, Navya Shah, Nandita Iyengar, Hita Akineni, Rashita Jain, Vaishnavi Nagubuyina, and Shaurya Falambarkar. Thank you. आप इसके बाद खुला ही बोलोगे तो चलेगा चलेगा झंडे भी रहने दूं झंडे लेने हैं किसको रहने दूं
જેના હાથ મારા મીઠે મારા મનની ઘૂઘરિયા, જેના ઢોલથી ઝબૂકે મારા પગની વીજળીઓ, જેના હાથ મારા મીઠે મારા મનની ઘૂઘરિયો, જેના ઢોલથી ઝબૂકે મારા પગની વીજળીઓ, એવો આવ્યો રે અસવાર રે, એવો આવ્યો રે અસવાર રે, હું એની ડમરીની ધૂળ બની જાઉં, તાલ દે અને હું તાલી દઉં. મારા મીઠાના રણમાં ભાગ્યો રે ઢોલ, કોહળો થયો રે પછી કોહળો થયો, એક સજ્જડ બંપાંજરો કોહળો થયો, આ એક સજ્જડ બંપાંજરો કોહળો થયો, એક સજ્જડ બંપાંજરો કોહળો થયો.
Thank you, Dhoom Group, for this classical performance. Now we move to the next performance of today's afternoon, the very graceful Dudiki dance being performed by the diaspora members from Odisha Association. Dudki dance is a traditional folk dance from the eastern Indian state of Odisha. The artists presenting this performance are Devaki Nandan Chaudhary, Debabshi, and Manaswi.
रघुनाथ हे मति चरण तले रघुनाथ हे जेपाने अहल्या मुकति लभिला सबु दोष धोई पाद कमले जेपाने अहल्या मुकति लभिला सबु दोष धोई पाद कमले गंगारे कैवल्य कला पाद धौत गंगारे कैवल्य कला पाद धौत बढ़ाइल पाद कि कौतूहले रघुनाथ हे मति चरण तले रघुनाथ हे ब्रह्मा विरंची जा पाद धोइबा तू चाहि रही चंती नयन जले ब्रह्मा विरंची जा पाद धोइबा तू चाहि रही चंती नयन जले वीर हनुमान नित्य दर्शन वीर हनुमान नित्य दर्शन करुथाए रखी हृद कमले रघुनाथ हे मति चरण तले रघुनाथ हे रहु नाही मन रही बनाही रहु नाही मन रही बनाही बुढ़ी मली भव अज्ञात जले रघुनाथ हे मति चरण तले रघुनाथ हे मति चरण तले रघुनाथ हे रघुनाथ हे रघुनाथ हे
आप छोड़ दीजिए पीछे आ रहा है बंदा अब जना आप चलिए आप
Thank you, Odisha Associations, for this mesmerizing performance. Now, I would like to call upon Ambassador Taranjeet Singh Sandhu sir on stage to deliver his remarks.
External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S Jaishankar, Mrs. Jaishankar, today is a rather active day on the US Congress. So we have a number of congressmen who are, once the voting is over, will turn up. But I'll just mention Congressman Thanedar, who's expected, Congressman Ro Khanna, we have Congressman Rich McCormick, and we have Congressman Mike Lawyer, and of course, Congrwoman Deborah Ross, and Senator John Ossoff will also drop by. So I just want to extend a welcome in advance to them. We also have the White House Domestic Policy Advisor to President Neera Tandon. She is also finding her way in. We have, as I will call Punjab da Munda, the White House National Drug Control Czar, Dr. Rahul Gupta. We have amongst us one of my very old friends, Deputy Secretary of State, Rich Verma. And we also have a special person amongst us, that is Rich's father, Dr. Kamal Verma. Dr. Kamal Verma was a scientist in United Punjab. and then came to the United States and served here. So a wonderful example of the bridge we always talk, which all of you here are. We have amongst us Director of National Science Foundation, Dr. Panchnathan. Panch, as all of you know, is actually one of the driving force in the science and technology handshake and cooperation and collaboration which we are having currently. We also have amongst us the DFC Deputy CEO, newly minted, Nisha Biswal. I think she is a very popular name in India and has served on India account on number of occasions, but this time she has a much, much wider portfolio. So wonderful to have you here. We are also expecting the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, to come soon. We have friends from the Hill. We have state legislators here. We have officials from the US administration and various states. We have friends from industry, leading professionals, academics, think tanks, media, and we have the wonderful members of the diaspora from all over the United States. I also have with me today the Consul Generals from Atlanta, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, and Houston. And of course, the Deputy Ambassador and the entire team from the embassy. And finally, above all, dear students, Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, Adab, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us at the India House today. We are honored to have the External Affairs Minister with us. All of you know he's a very senior member of the Prime Minister Modi's team. He is one of the most well-recognized and well-respected statesmen across the globe today. I think it's not a secret that I served as his deputy in Washington, and it's not every day that you get to host your former boss, who's also your current boss. I must admit here that his energy, josh, and positivity are infectious, and I've learned so much from him. Welcome back, sir and ma'am, back to India House. Now they say to speak and to speak well are two different things. So to speak, you will have my example, and to speak well, you will have the External Affairs Minister speaking. I must confess here that seeing the large crowd of a number of guests here speaks for itself. Welcome. Many of you have traveled from far, Atlanta to California, Boston to Miami. If I'm missing a few cities, excuse me. But I'm sure all of you will agree that your love for India has brought you here, and this is a big family gathering, and we have been having such gatherings, and it's wonderful that all of you have come to pay your greetings and respects to the External Affairs Minister. The theme of today's gathering is, as you can see, colors of friendship. We are celebrating the 4 Ds that brighten India-US Dosti: diversity, democracy, development, and diaspora. Friends, around this year, we celebrate many different festivals. Janmashtami, Ganesh Chaturthi, Milad Unnami, Rosh Hashanah, Navroz. We are soon going to have Navratri, Dussehra, Diwali, Gurpurb. After that, we are going to have Thanksgiving and Christmas. So this is a reflection of our diversity. As all of you know, that India is a land of 1.4 billion people, world's largest democracy. Perhaps one of the world's largest pluralistic democracy. Home to all the major religions of the world: Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, Jains. Nearly 20,000 languages and dialects. Each state in India, and you will see some part of it today, has its own cultural identity, own language, customs, traditions, satire, cuisine, attire, and some of the cuisine you will taste today in India House. The rich and vibrant colors of India, the very essence of our existence, our own uniqueness and our own Indianness. And United States too is one of the most multicultural societies. The threads of diversity and democracy that connect us run deep and strong. Today is also, we are celebrating and paying homage to Mahatma Gandhi. His birth anniversary is coming on 2nd of October. It's well known that he has inspired millions across the world, including the United States. And his message of hope and dream, equality and liberty, freedom and empowerment is ever relevant. Mahatma Ji once said, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. This is so true of India-US relations too. Friends, India's development story today has attracted global significance. We are a home to the third largest tech ecosystem, creating a unicorn almost every week. We have the largest world's renewable energy expansion program, the largest world's financial inclusion program, world's largest health assurance program. We are also the largest producer of generic drugs globally. And of course, we are the largest producers of movies. I'm sure all of you watched them. I can go on and on, but effectively, we have used technology for good governance. However, our vision of development is neither self-centered nor myopic. We aspire for the global good. As Prime Minister Modi has said, when India grows, the world grows. When India reforms, the world transforms. Be it the recent G20 presidency or the substantive outcomes of Prime Minister Modi's state visit to US, in which most of you participated, or the visit of President Biden to India recently, or our active collaboration with the US under Quad, IPEF, I2U2, International Solar Alliance, or recently launched India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or Global Biofuel Alliance. You will see that we are working together, not just with each other, but for the world. Friends, ultimately, it's the people who define this partnership. 4 million strong Indian diaspora in the United States, including 300,000 Indian students. You are all the pillar of this partnership. Thank you for taking out the time to be with us today. And before I conclude, I would also like to take a minute to recognize the efforts of my team who have put all this together. They represent the beautiful colors of India and the United States. The stalls which you will see, the colors, the decorations, and the food, all has been done in the India House. These boys and girls have worked day and night for the last few days and despite the weather. They have shown that the colors of friendship is not just a figurative hashtag, but something very real and actual. A big round of applause for them. Let me wish you all happiness, health, and success. And thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ambassador Sir, for your remarks. Now we move to the next performance this afternoon. This comes from the southern shores of India, Kerala. The dance performance is called Opanna. Opanna is a song and dance performance popular among the Muslim community of North Kerala, usually performed by women during weddings. The dance is being performed by Shoshana Lee Thekanatu, Jacob Thekanatu, Ishani Shalima, Ishita Shalima, Jennifer Jitu, Meera Verma, Sanaya Korampurat, and Tisha Nair. The team may come on the stage, please.
Come here. He will come in the end, so I will send him. Come.
Thank you.
Thank you, Malayali group, for this beautiful performance. Moving forward, I would like to call upon Congressman from the 13th District of Michigan, Sri Thanedar, to share his views. Before being elected to Congress in 2022, Congressman Sri Thanedar has served in the Michigan House of Representatives. Congressman, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. How is everybody? Wow, so beautiful to see all of you here. Thank you for everything you do every day. Indian Americans have done so well in every walk of life. And now we're trying to make a mark in the political arena, right? I just came from the United States Congress and just cast a vote to make sure we do not shut down U.S. government. This has been a wonderful week, and I had the pleasure to form and announce formation of the first ever Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, and Jain caucus in the United States Congress. Very first time. Yeah. And we will not tolerate any kind of hate. We will not tolerate any kind of bigotry against any religions that we practice. We will not tolerate the comments by the police officer who mercilessly killed Janaki Kanduam and then had the nerve to marginalize her life, calling it a life not worth much. We will not tolerate such attacks on our brothers and sisters. We will not tolerate such attacks on our religion. We will not tolerate such attacks on our community. And the caucus is there to not only protect our community, but our children and our grandchildren and their rights for their freedom. And thank you for all of you being with me on that. I was born in Karnataka, in Belgaum, a small town in Belgaum, Karnataka. And I'm a Marathi speaking guy. I'm a first Marathi speaking, first Kannada speaking person in the United States Congress. Look, I was 24 years old, growing in poverty, living in a small little apartment, 10 of us, working as a janitor in Belgavi while I was going to college. And from that, this year, in June, I had the pleasure to welcome and escort Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to the joint session of US Congress, where he did a fabulous job addressing and making India's case and showing why India is a power that needs to be recognized by the entire world. A fast-growing economy, soon to be the third largest economy, and I'm working in the Congress to ensure that India and United States have a strong, trusting relationship. It's not only good for the people of India, it's not only good for the people of the United States, it's good for world peace. It's good for peace in the Indian Pacific Ocean. And as a congressperson of Indian origin, I would work with the Indian government, with the United States government to ensure that we will have a strong relation between the oldest and the largest democracy in the world. I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know there's a lot of things going on here, so I'm going to be brief, but I will be fighting. I'll be working hard, and you can reach me in my office. My office is just simple, Thanedar. Yes, we have a Thanedar in the US Congress. So it's Thanedar.house.gov. Reach out to us. We have an office in Detroit, Michigan. We have an office here in DC. And I represent Detroit, Michigan. As you know, Detroit suffered and so continue to suffer from the systemic racism. And Mahatma Gandhi's principles are key in fighting against racism, fighting against injustice. You know, Martin Luther King called Mahatma Gandhi his, right? And his principles, Gandhiji's principle, MLK's determination is what helps me motivate to continue to help my district, my great city of Detroit, and my state, Michigan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Congressman, for your remarks. Moving forward, I would like to invite Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Dr. Rahul Gupta, on stage. Dr. Gupta is a renowned physician and was elevated to lead the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy in October 2021 and became the first medical doctor ever to hold the position. Dr. Gupta, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I really appreciate today being the opportunity to have here Minister Jaishankar, Mr. Jaishankar. Thank you. It's a great event. We're talking about colors of friendship. And of course, Ambassador Sandhu, as I've said before, that he is the embodiment of a diplomat representing India in this country and across the globe. So thank you for your leadership as well. And all of you, my friend Shri included, today we're honoring the upcoming 54th birthday anniversary of what's also known as the International Day of Nonviolence of Gandhiji. What becomes important to me as I think about it is to think about where in the United States we have had few leaders who have embodied the work of Mahatma Gandhi, but I think there's a lot more that people from the Indian diaspora can do to spread the word. So it becomes important once again to reflect upon the core values of the Mahatma: truth, satyagraha, nonviolence or ahimsa, compassion and kindness. And let me give you a real example. When our boys were growing up, we taught them these values. For some reason, they flipped the satyagraha and the ahimsa. So whenever they fight with each other, and boys fight, their signal to stop fighting was satyagraha. It should have been ahimsa, but we let it go because that's the way things are as parents. You get what you get. I read the first time the Bapu's autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, when I was 17, but soon realized that a person who reads about Gandhiji does not automatically imply that he or she would inculcate the values in their daily life. It is a practice, experimentation, and building those social and emotional competencies that it is a must if we truthfully exemplify Gandhiji. Let me give you an example of that, because recently I visited Sabarmati Ashram, and the story goes of Gandhiji is that he used to hold these town halls where people will come and ask questions and get answers. One time, this woman came waiting 4 hours in line with her child. After that 4 hours, got to Bapu and said, "Bapu, can you help me? Tell my child not to eat excess sugar." He looked at her and said, "Ma," which is mother, "come back in 2 weeks." She said, "Okay, Bapu." Well, she goes back in the line 2 weeks later, waits another 4 hours, gets in front and say, "You remember me, Bapu? I came 2 weeks ago." He said, "Yes. Can you tell my son to now stop eating excess sugar?" He says to the son, "Son, stop eating sugar." She leaves, and while she's leaving, she turns around and says, "But Bapu, you could have done that 2 weeks ago." He said, "Well, the problem, Ma, is that I was also eating excess sugar 2 weeks ago." So now most of our lives aren't as binary as giving up sugar, but the individual and personal challenges of today include social isolation, deteriorating mental and physical health conditions like they've never been before. So in March of 1927, Gandhiji said that drink and drug evil is in many respects infinitely worse than the evil caused by malaria and the like. For whilst the latter only injure the body, but the former injure the body and the soul. You know, Bapu believed in the inherent worth of dignity and worth of every human being and the power that we have in our individual transformation. Our greatest ability, he said, as humans is not to change the world, but to change ourselves. So this philosophy that many of us can spread, it teaches us the importance of serving others, the work towards greater good, and the principles of truth, nonviolence, justice, and compassion. They really offer us a powerful framework in today's world, where we're seeing critical challenges and greater threats like never before. And I think it's important for us to embrace these principles today, because today we need to figure out how do we go from shame to restorative justice, from stigma to support, from isolation to community, and from violence to peace. We all can envision a future where individuals and communities can find hope, where our society stands united in the face of these challenges. And so in this spirit of unity and empathy and nonviolence and peace, that we must honor Gandhi's legacy as we forge a path towards a more comprehensive and loving world. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Our next speaker this afternoon is Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources, Richard R. Verma. Deputy Secretary Verma is the former Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs and the former National Security Advisor to the Senate Majority Leader. Deputy Secretary Verma has also served as a U.S. Ambassador to India between 2014 and 2017. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's great to see everyone. I want to thank my friend of 25 years, Ambassador Sandhu, who I first met when you were a young political officer serving at the embassy here in D.C. You've gone on to have one of the most distinguished careers in the Indian Foreign Service. We are so grateful for your friendship, for your commitment to this relationship. Your involvement has been essential to where we are in U.S.-India ties. Ambassador Sandhu, thank you. Let me also thank the incredibly talented External Affairs Minister, who I have also known for a long time over many capacities, and who I can also say is the architect of modern U.S.-India relations. We would not be in the strong place that we are today, but for the External Affairs Minister leadership. Thank you. Thank you so much. We come here today to honor the great Mahatma Gandhi on his birthday. His life transformed the quest for social, economic, and racial justice on the Indian subcontinent and around the world. And in my own family, his teachings and ideas had a huge impact. My mother trained as a social worker in Gandhi's Sevagram ashram, and my dad's own writings were greatly influenced as a professor of South Asian literature. But Gandhi's impact on US-India bilateral relationship was also significant because ultimately, contrary to what many of my US think tank colleagues might think or write, the US-India relationship is built on shared ideas and, yes, shared values too. Top among those are a commitment to democracy and social justice. Gandhi would write to President Roosevelt in 1942 that he had, quote, profited greatly by the writings of Thoreau and Emerson. And some years later, Dr. King would write, quote, it was the Gandhian emphasis on love and nonviolence that I discovered the method for social reform, and that Gandhi's philosophy was the only morally and practically sound method open to oppressed people in their struggle for freedom. The US and India value system advocates for a fairness and justice for all peoples. These values are the glue that hold our countries together. It was the reason that 60 years ago, my father chose this country to settle in, arriving, as he likes to remind us, with only $14 in his pocket and a bus ticket. The rest, they say, is history. For his kid to go on and serve as the US ambassador to the country of his roots and now serve as Deputy Secretary of State is the longest of long shots. But it is a very American story. And it is a very Indian story too. And ultimately, it is the stories of hard work and risk-taking of individuals, all of you here, that have actually done the hard work in building US-India ties and making it one of the most consequential relationships of this century. Do we have disagreements? You bet. Will we have bumps in the road? Of course. But two close friends aligned with these shared values, bonded together by the great ideas of Gandhi, King, and so many others, and solidified by all of your sacrifices, this is a partnership with staying power, with real impact, and that will continue to have an outsized influence in the world. And so I'm so grateful to the ambassador, to the minister, and all of you for what you do each day. And so on behalf of President Biden, the Secretary of State, our entire executive branch team that's represented here, we are so honored to celebrate and recognize Mahatma Gandhi, but also to celebrate and recognize all of you, all 4.4 million of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Verma. Now, I would like to call upon Director, U.S. National Science Foundation, Dr. S. Panchnathan, to share his views. Dr. Panchnathan has been a leader in science, engineering, and education and was nominated as the 15th Director of NSF in 2019. He has also played a key role in strengthening India-US collaboration in the fields of biotechnology, IT, and green technologies. Dr. Panchnathan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. What better exemplification of this particular event, colors of friendship. Ambassador Sandhu, you are a great friend of the United States, of the National Science Foundation, and your work, working with us in terms of expanding the horizons of science, technology, innovation is truly exemplary. So thank you for your friendship. Honorable Minister Jaishankar, he visited NSF not too long ago. I was truly amazed by his very critical thinking around technology. And I said, this is a person leading the foreign affairs of India with such science, technology, innovation thinking as an underpinning. So thank you, sir, for all your support. Where we are today with this partnership, and every time we have reached out to you and the MEA in terms of making sure that this partnership can be vibrant, we have always found you as a significant friend, a partner. Thank you for all your work. Congressman Thanedar, your words were very exciting. Shri, I look forward to working with the Congress. And of course, with NSF, when they say we are working with Congress, you know for what. So, so we look forward to working with you. And so it's great to see all the friends here. And this is what this is about. I was thinking about this as I was driving in today. And when we talk about colors of friendship, when you look at the colors of a rainbow, the rainbow is the most beautiful thing in nature. When you look at the colors of the rainbow, a tiny droplet of water through which sun shines, and then you have this amazing display of colors, the 7 colors that we talked about, Vibgyor, as we would say. Now, if you look at the same tiny droplet, and for a moment think of this droplet as something called friendship. And this friendship is now empowered by the shared values, the shared aspirations. That is the light that flows through that. And when you look at it through the lens of science, technology, innovation, those 7 colors can be talked about in terms of the friendship that has resulted in amazing partnership. The National Science Foundation is now partnering with the Department of Science and Technology. Number 1. The National Science Foundation is now partnering with the Ministry of Information Technology. Number 2. The National Science Foundation is partnering with the Department of Biotechnology. Number 3. The National Science Foundation is now establishing a partnership with the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Number 4. And then the National Science Foundation just had a discussion with the Secretary of the Department of Telecommunications yesterday. That is number 5, the 5th color. And the 6th is working with the Prime Minister's office. The National Science Foundation is working on how do we expand the Quad partnership to deliver actual value to both citizens of both countries in the area of AI for agriculture. And the last but not least, the National Science Foundation with the LIGO, the Laser Interferometry Gravitational Observatory, which was approved by the Indian cabinet not too long ago, $312 million of investment, is again another facet of that color. These 7 facets resemble the 7 colors that comes out of the beautiful rainbow. But let me tell you, although these 7 colors are so evident in a rainbow, there are millions of other colors that are encompassing this rainbow. To me, those represent the millions and billions of talented people that will be empowered, that will be enriched, that will be unleashed because of this partnership, both in the United States and India. We would both agree that this is the moment that we need to have opportunities for every citizen everywhere in both nations. We would both also agree that this is a moment that we need to unleash innovation in every part of our nations. So this is a joint aspiration. This is a joint goal, and therefore this friendship makes possible the expression of this joint goal. And I know the future is very, very bright. Ambassador Sandhu, you talked about the 4 Ds. You talked about diversity. Science, technology, and innovation makes possible the expression of this talent through the diverse ways in which we can do that. But science, technology, innovation is also the way in which we will have these talents expressed better. You talked about democracy. As you know, science, technology, innovation makes possible robust democracies, but more recently it has been challenged. Again, science, technology, innovation will be the way in which we will ensure robust democracies. You talked about development. Science, technology, innovation is the method by which we will guarantee development both in the United States as well as in India. And you talked about diaspora. What better way of exemplifying the friendship between the United States and India than the amazing science, technology, and innovation people that transcend between the US and Canada. You look at all the CEOs of all the technology companies, you look at the great scientists, you look at the great leaders in industry, entrepreneurs like our congressman here. This is truly an expression of the full frame and the full expression of what science, technology, innovation can do. And I'm so glad that that is the thread of the Colors of Friendship theme here today. Thank you for inviting me. And it's so delighted to be with all the friends. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Panchanathan. I would now like to call upon Assistant to the US President and Domestic Policy Advisor to President Biden, Ms. Neera Tandon. She has previously served as Senior Advisor and Staff Secretary in the White House. Ms. Tandon, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I'm really honored to be here with so many leaders in our community, but I also am really honored to be here with so many leaders in our country. I think it is a real testament to the strength of the diaspora, which I know the ambassador spoke to, that we have so many leaders in the Biden-Harris administration. So many people here I work with every day, and I am honored to call friends. We tackle really critical challenges. And it's amazing to me that we have a Deputy Secretary of State, one of the highest ranking people in our national security infrastructure, as an Indian American, my good friend. I cover domestic policy, so I steer clear of international issues these days. But I think what's really important is that we have such a strong person-to-person, community-to-community leader relationship based on the strength of the diaspora. And I've been here in Washington now. I don't want to date myself, but it's been a few decades that I've been working in Washington. And when I first came to Washington, there were just a few people in the Clinton administration who were Indian American. And today, we are Indian Americans are all throughout the administration. When we're talking about AI issues, the Office of Science and Technology Policy is run by Arthur Prabhakar, an Indian American. When you hear the president's words in his amazing speech on democracy just 2 days ago, those words are written by Vinay Reddy. In fact, you can't throw a stone in the White House and not hit an Indian American these days. So, no, that's something to apply. And that is really because over so many years, this community has really widened its span to think broadly about contributions to our country. As immigrant, when I first came to Washington, most people asked me why I was here and not working in medicine or in business or some other area. And I don't get that question anymore because of really how much our community has honestly matured and recognized that we can participate and contribute in so many ways. And I think it is the strength of that relationship and the strength of the democratic participation that we are part of that really builds on the U.S.-India relationship. And it is an honor to be here with the foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, who is a great leader across so many issues and has recognized for years the important strength of the diaspora. And so I really want to say I'm here because whenever the ambassador calls, I answer. He's one of the strongest ambassadors India has ever had. He is a real and fierce advocate for the U.S.-India relationship, and more importantly, an advocate for the U.S.-India partnership. It is a true partnership, as Rich laid out. So really, I am here to say thank you. I am here to say thank you for the vision, leadership, advocacy, and strength of this community, which I know is such a vibrant part of American democracy. And thank you for being more and more engaged in civic participation in our democracy. We're lucky to have more and more members of Congress, like Congressman Srinadar, and I am who I consider a great colleague. And I'm really thankful for all of your engagement in this relationship, which I think strengthens both the United States and India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Tandon. Now we move to the next cultural program for this evening, the very energetic Bhangra. Bhangra has its roots. Bhangra has its roots in the agricultural celebrations of the Punjab region, where it was performed by farmers to celebrate their joy and gratitude for a successful harvest. It is today presented here by the diaspora group from Richmond, and the artists are Yashnur Sandhu, Guljab Singh, Gurpaj Tur, Sanjum Sandhu, and Anhad Sandhu.
ਜਿੱਤਣ ਦੀ ਬਾਜੀ ਜਮਾ ਹਰੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਨੀਕ ਯਾਰੀ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੈਡਲਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਭਰੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਤੂੰ ਜੱਟ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਦੀ ਬਾਜੀ ਜਮਾ ਹਰੀ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਉਹ ਜਦੋਂ ਬੱਕਰੇ ਬੁਲਾਉਂਦੇ ਜੱਟ ਗੋਰੀਏ ਨੀ ਮਾਮੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਉੱਡ ਵੜਦੇ ਓ ਯਾਰੀ ਜੱਟਾਂ ਦੀ ਤੂੰ ਤੇ ਦਾ ਮੋਛਾਂ ਤੇ ਬੈਠ ਕਲ ਯੁੱਗ ਵਾਲੀ ਗਏ ਓ ਯਾਰੀ ਜੱਟਾਂ ਦੀ ਤੂੰ ਤੇ ਦਾ ਮੋਛਾਂ ਤੇ ਬੈਠ ਕਲ ਯੁੱਗ ਵਾਲੀ ਗਏ ਓ ਯਾਰੀ ਜੱਟਾਂ ਦੀ ਤੂੰ ਤੇ ਦਾ ਮੋਛਾਂ ਤੇ ਬੈਠ ਕਲ ਯੁੱਗ ਵਾਲੀ ਗਏ
ਕਾਸ਼ਨੀ ਤੇ ਉੱਤੋਂ ਸੁਰਮੇ ਨਾਲ ਡੱਕ ਲਈ ਚੰਨਾ ਸਖੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਖ ਵੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੇ ਰੱਖ ਲਈ ਹਰ ਰੋਜ਼ ਤੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਮੰਗਾ ਵੇ ਮੈਂ ਭੋਰਾ ਵੀ ਨਾ ਸੰਗਾ ਹਾਏ ਰੋਜ਼ ਟਾਲ ਤੂੰ ਤਿੰਨੇ ਬਣਦੇ ਦੇਸ ਮੁੰਡਿਆ ਲੈ ਦੇ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਪੈਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੂੰ ਪੰਜੇਬ ਮੁੰਡਿਆ ਲੈ ਦੇ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਪੈਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੂੰ ਪੰਜੇਬ ਮੁੰਡਿਆ ਹਾਏ ਸੁਨਿਆਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਬਣਵਾ ਕੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਭੇਜ ਮੁੰਡਿਆ ਲੈ ਦੇ ਗੋਰਿਆਂ ਪੈਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੂੰ ਪੰਜੇਬ ਮੁੰਡਿਆ
ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੂੰ ਤੇਰੇ ਪੀਪਾ ਕਿਹਦੀ ਜੱਟ ਚ ਅੱਖੀ ਪਾਈਆਂ ਤੂੰ ਸ਼ਨੈਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਐਨਕਾਂ ਪਾਈਆਂ ਤੂੰ ਸ਼ਨੈਲ ਦੀਆਂ ਐਨਕਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਚੱਕ ਨਖਰੋ ਉਹਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੱਕ ਨਖਰੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੱਕ ਨਖਰੋ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੱਕ ਨਖਰੋ ਉਹਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ ਉਹਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ ਉਹਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲ
बीच में रखना ध्यान से ठीक है सामने से
Thank you, Richmond Group, for getting us all energized. Our next speaker this afternoon is DFC's Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Nisha Biswal. Before joining DFC in July 2023, Ms. Biswal has served as the Senior Vice President at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce as well as Assistant Secretary for South and Central Asian Affairs at the U.S. Department of State from 2013 to 2017. I request Ms. Biswal to come up on stage and share her remarks. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Well, what a hard act to follow. My goodness, that was a great performance. I just want to say it is so exciting to be working on U.S.-India relations and to be up here with colleagues who have been part of this relationship for 25 to 30 years of their careers, have invested so deeply in furthering ties between our two countries. Colleagues like the External Affairs Minister who, you know, from his days as Joint Secretary Americas has been such a key part of every building block of this relationship. The Ambassador Taranjit Sandhu, who has been here since he was a first-term political officer working to really invest the U.S. Congress in the importance of the U.S.-India relationship. And the Deputy Secretary who, from his days in the Senate, from his time in various administrations, has been building block after block of the architecture of this relationship. I count them all as good friends. Neera Tandon, from her perch in think tanks, in administrations with Congress, and now in her important role in the administration. Colleagues who have been really investing in this relationship for decades and decades. It is not, however, a government-to-government relationship. It is far, far more than that. It is a people-to-people, a business-to-business, a academic institutions, scientific collaborations, as Punch talked about. And it's most importantly a indication and a result of the investment of this very large and active Indian American diaspora that has been persistent over decades in building that relationship as well. So thank you for what all of you have done. I am now in the privileged position of working at the Development Finance Corporation as its deputy CEO. We are looking to create important, impactful ways of financing infrastructure, energy, health, food security around the world. Nowhere are we more active than in India, our largest portfolio of investments, where we are. Thank you. It is such a critically important relationship because India is a driver of growth. India is a driver of development, not only in its own borders, but around the world. And so this partnership becomes critically important. We're working in India and with India to diversify solar supply chains so that we are not all globally dependent on one country for the renewable technology that we need on our planet today. We have two large solar manufacturing projects in India today. We're working with India to advance global vaccine manufacturing, working with Indian companies, working on food security and on economic inclusion, targeting women entrepreneurs, and so many more. So it's a privilege for me to have been active across this relationship, but really, really exciting to see how far it can go, not only to advance U.S. and India ties, but frankly, how the U.S. and India together are advancing global security and global impact. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Biswal. Moving forward, I would like to call upon Congressman Rich McCormick. He has been representing Georgia's 6th congressional district since 2023. Prior to becoming a congressman, he has served in U.S. Marine Corps and U.S. Navy for over 20 years. Congressman McCormick now serves on Standing Committee of Armed Forces, Committee on Foreign Affairs, and Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. Congressman McCormick, the floor is yours.
It is really good to see you here today. What an incredible couple of years for India. To have a spaceship go to the dark side of the moon for $64 million. Are you kidding me? I wish the United States could do that. We'd be a lot better off. To see the vaccine wars and see what the women scientists in India have done. To see a growing economy that's going to be someday the third largest in the world. I feel it. And I feel like after that, maybe even the second largest. I hope they don't become the first, because then the United States is in trouble. But I love the fact that we have so many Indian students coming back and forth. You're seeing this exchange of information. This is the closest our nations have ever been, and it's only going to get better. One of the things I love about the Indian diaspora here, not just the great success, not just the fact that you're the wealthiest, the most successful, but the fact that you're becoming some of the most influential people in the United States. Think about this. 2 presidential candidates. Think about this. Leading scientists, leading business people, leading doctors in every capacity. In the future, think about this. In the future, if you continue to be engaged and you think about what's important to you, the family values, creating jobs, creating economy, having opportunities that exist nowhere else in the world, that exist now here in the United States, but also in India, with a constitution that's very similar. You literally could be the people to choose the next president of the United States. This is our future. This is what we're excited about. I just came back from India a couple weeks ago on the first freshman Codel in the world to India, met with amazing people, including the Prime Minister, and really excited that this is just the beginning of something special. We have common enemies, but we are common friends, and we're going to continue to exchange technologies and economies and even military operations that will benefit us for generation after generation after generation. Remember this when I say, and I mean this wholeheartedly, that in my district, we probably have 100,000 Indian diaspora. 1 out of every 5 doctors is from the Indian diaspora. Some of the most successful schools in the entire nation are about 70% from the Indian diaspora. That is the future. Let me conclude by this. If you stay engaged, I want you to think about this. I know we have people from both sides of the aisle here, but I'm going to make my pitch for just a second. Think about what represents your community. I mean that sincerely. Are you for getting ahead? Did you come here for opportunity? Did you come here for quotas? Or did you come here to excel beyond all other people based on hard work, creativity, ingenuity, and intelligence? Think very carefully on who you support and what you're for, because it's going to make a difference in your opportunities, what schools you get to go to, what your businesses get to be accomplishing, and what taxation and regulation are going to be placed on you. I am all for empowering you for your great success, because nobody knows success better than you. God bless you, and let's keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next speaker this afternoon is Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Vivek H. Murthy. He was appointed as the 21st Surgeon General of the United States in March 2021 and commands a uniformed service of over 6,000 dedicated public health officers. Dr. Murthy, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for that warm introduction. It's good to see everyone here today. And it was always a joy to be back at the embassy under the great hosting of Ambassador Sandhu. I want to say that, it was years ago that I met Ambassador Sandhu, and he has always, despite all the stresses and challenges around him, always been kind, been warm, been hospitable, and been welcoming. And I'm just so glad that we have such a strong partner in Ambassador Sandhu. I'm also so grateful for our External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar. I'm so glad that you were here today. I remember meeting you when I served in this position in the Obama administration. And I count us lucky in the United States that we have both of you to help guide and shape the friendship between the US and India. I also just want to say, just what an incredible moment we had with the landing of Chandrayaan on the moon. I think about that, and a round of applause is well warranted, because I think about that moment, and it was my mother actually who sent me the video of the landing first. She keeps track of everything that's happening in India's space program, knows everybody who's leading ISRO, knows all the key players. But she sent me that video, and the sense of pride that she had, but also that we all had for this global accomplishment was really extraordinary. You know, my parents, like many of the folks who are here, like many of your parents, my parents left India years ago to come and find their way here to the United States. But even though they left India, they didn't leave India behind. They still retained many of the key values, the culture, the spiritual traditions that they were born and brought up with, and that they held dear to them. The freedom struggles, of the independence movement were still fresh in their own minds. My grandfather was a freedom fighter who was beaten and jailed by the British as he protested and fought for Indian independence. And even though my parents ended up leaving India and coming to the United States, they saw in the United States a very similar set of values that their new home and their ancestral home aspired to: a fierce commitment to democracy, a recognition that every life has value, regardless of caste or religion or creed, and a dedication to service, not just as something we do on the side, but as a way of life. Those commitments were embodied in the people they taught me about as a child. My father would often be gone for 2 or 3 days when I was growing up, and he would be working long shifts in many hospitals across South Florida to support the family when we first moved to this country. And during those long nights, my mother would teach us, my sister and I, about Gandhi, about Vivekananda, about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. She would teach us about the Gita. She would read stories to us from the Puranas. She would teach us the values that she was born and brought up with. And one of the key lessons that she taught us was about friendship and the power of friendship to transform our lives, the essential nature of friendship for progress, for our survival. And it is in that vein that I'm so glad to be here today, because the friendship between India and the United States will be one of the defining friendships and partnerships of the 21st century. It's a partnership. And I'll tell you why it was so essential, because there's key progress that we need to make on many areas that you've heard about today. But I want to focus in particular on the partnership around health, the importance of our collaboration around future pandemic preparedness and on addressing infectious diseases which know no border. It's also essential for us to address the growing threat of non-communicable diseases like diabetes and heart disease, which continue to take millions and millions of lives each year, but which we could together help address. But it also requires collaboration on one last front, which we don't talk about often enough, which is on addressing mental health, which has become a global struggle in the United States and across the world, as we've seen rising rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide, particularly among young people. When I was growing up, my feeling and my belief and my hope was always that your childhood is a time where you look forward most to everything that's to come in life. It's when you're optimistic. It's when you're hopeful. It's when you're filled with possibility. But that seems to be a more and more rare phenomenon as we see these rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide rise among young people. So as a global community, we have to come together to address these critical health needs, and particularly with mental health, to help eradicate the stigma that tells us that because you suffer with mental illness means that you are fundamentally broken as a human being. We have to address some of the root causes of the mental health crisis, the growing threat of loneliness and isolation, and some of the negative and harmful impacts of social media, particularly on our kids. And we've got to address the gap that we have in accessing care. It is not right that people suffer without the ability to get the care that they need. And this is a place where all of us throughout the global community can and need to do better, and we need to work together to make that progress. So I want to to thank all of you for being here, but also just to underscore the importance of this partnership, because these health issues, they really matter. The stakes are really high. I would say that to a T, every person in this room wants the future to be brighter for their kids than it was for us. We all want that. Stakes are high because our kids are struggling. They aren't doing well. And I keep something in my pocket to remind me of that, to remind me of what the stakes are. I keep these 2 socks. These are the socks that my 2 children, my son Tejas and my daughter Shanti, wore when they were infants. And I travel with these, I keep these with me because they remind me that the work that each of us does, whether we're in the government, whether we're in the United States and India, whether we're in the private sector, we do that work because the most important stakeholder we have in mind that we need to serve is our children. And together we can make good on the hope that we all have of creating a better world for them and for future generations. I thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for our partnership.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy. We move forward to the next cultural performance this afternoon. We have a harmonious interlude with a Jewish song celebrating Rosh Hashanah, which was celebrated just a couple of weeks back. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is one of the holiest days in Judaism, marking a time of reflection and renewal. Our artists for this performance are Shira Pulitzer and Hadial Dayanin.
בראש השנה תרחש השנה אצלי בגינה, בראש השנה ספינה לבנה עגנה לה בחוף פתאום, בראש השנה ליבנו אמר בתפילה נושנה, שיפה ושונה תהא השנה אשר מתחילה להיום. שונות תהיה השנה אשר מתחילה להיום. בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות, ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה, עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה נפרוס כפות ידיים לאור הניגר הלבן, ענפה לבנה תפרוס כפות כנפיים והשמש תזרח ותאכל. עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה, עוד תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. על הדבש ועל העוקץ, על המר והמתוק, על ביתנו התינוקת שמור אלי הטוב, על האש המבוערת, על המים הזכים, על האיש השב הביתה מן המרחקים, על כל אלה שמור נא לי
Thank you, Jewish group, for this refreshing performance. Continuing with the theme of unity, we move to the last performance of the day presented by the Holy Trinity CSI Church, reminding us of the values that bind us all together. This Christian devotional song is performed by Sony Thomas, Richie Varghese, Anit Dukhana, Roshan Yappan, Christine Variatu Yappan, Anu Roni, Jayanti Varghese, Neethi Matthew, Krisha Oman, and Sherin John.
There's a change on the horizon. There's a change that's sure to come. And that change is strong and steady, like the beat of a drum. In each life there is a spirit. In its spirit there's a light. And that light is there to guide us, like a beacon in the night. Let your light be a light of promise. May it shine with a brilliant glow. Let your light be a light of freedom. Let it burn and let it grow. Keep your hope in times of trouble. Keep your faith in what is right. Let your heart forever guide you to the truth and to the light. Let your light be a light of promise. May it shine with a brilliant glow. Let your light be a light of freedom. Let it burn and let it grow. There's a change on the horizon. There's a change that's sure to come. And that change is strong and steady, like the beat of the drum. Like the beat of the drum. Like the beat, like the beat, like the beat of the drum. Drum, drum.
Thank you, Holy Trinity CSI Church, for this melodious performance. Now, I would like to request Honorable External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S Jaishankar, to come on stage and make his thoughts. Sir, the floor is yours.
You know, I used to live in this house, but I never saw so many people in my time. So let me begin by crediting our energetic and enthusiastic ambassador, who's really brought a great deal of josh into this relationship. And I was telling him that if any of us had doubts how energetic Sandhus can be, you saw the Bhangra group. They were full of Sandhus too. But it's really great to be here. It's great to be back. It's great to be in DC. And I must tell you, in many ways, this has been an extraordinary year. It's been an extraordinary year for India. But it's been really something fantastic, something very different for our relationship with the US. And you all saw that. You all saw that when the Prime Minister came. You saw it in terms of the warmth of the welcome, the substance of our cooperation, the breadth of his engagements. There's one clear message today, that our relationship is at an all-time high. But as they say in America, you ain't seen anything yet. So we are going to take this relationship to a different level, to a different place. And, when we went back to India from that trip, a lot of people asked me, saying, look, you've been doing this American relationship for a long time. What was it like? What were the earlier visits like? How do you compare? Now, I tried to be objective, okay? I'm in politics, but I still sort of try to keep as much balance and non-partisanship. And I genuinely told people that if one thought about, visits which change the relationship, certainly for someone, of my, I don't want to say age, I'll say experience. People remember the Rajiv Gandhi visit in 1985. Okay. I was here at that time. People remember the 2005 visit, Dr. Manmohan Singh's visit, when the nuclear deal happened. I was there too, as someone negotiating it. People remember Prime Minister Modi's own earlier visit, the Madison Square Garden, the first visit, the MLK Memorial. But I have to say that this one was different. It was different, definitely, in optics. I mean, you, as I said, you all saw it for yourself. But if you ask me what has changed, I think what has changed is India and the United States used to deal with each other. Today, they work with each other. That is really what has changed. Now, there are a lot of scientists here. Scientists like to talk about data. They make correlations, right? Right, Punch? So I want to give you a data, and I want you to make the correlation about our improving relationship, okay? When Pandit Nehru came to the United States in 1949, there were 3,000 Indian Americans. When Indira Gandhi came to the United States in 1966, there were 30,000 Americans, Indian Americans. When Rajiv Gandhi came here in 1985, there were 300,000 Indian Americans. When Narendra Modi came, there were more than 3 million, now going on to almost 5 million. So get the correlation. What's the change? You guys are the change. If there is something unique about our relationship with the United States, it is actually the human bond that we have between our two countries. And it is this bond, because, you know, countries do business with each other. Countries do politics with each other. They have military ties, they do exercises. They have cultural exchanges. But when two countries have that deep human bonding, that's a completely different ballgame. And that is today the defining characteristic of our relationship. And so I want to tell all of you, and I know there's, you know, up to the, whatever, 4.5 million, some of you aren't here, but the role, responsibility, contribution of the community to this relationship. This is something fantastic. There are really no words that can capture it. And it is on that foundation that today we are looking ahead for a completely, I think I heard the words, a new hope on the horizon. I think that was the last song. So I think when we look at the horizon, we really see fantastic possibilities out there. And it's the community which is going to deliver on that. Now, my visit this time, I came to New York for the UN General Assembly. I then came to Washington, which we often do. I met my counterparts, Secretary Blinken, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, the Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, the Trade Representative Catherine Tai, the National Security Advisor, did a few business meetings, addressed a few think tanks. This is what foreign ministers do for a living. But when I speak today to the world, to people in the United States, to people of other countries, the many foreign ministers I met in New York, I want to share with you that this is truly a different India for which I speak. It is an India which, as you heard from others, is capable of the Chandrayaan-3 mission. It is an India which was able to pull off the most spectacular G20 and prove those who said that we will not be able to get 20, I don't want to say quarreling countries, but 20 countries with different positions to come to the table together. This was an India which showed during COVID that it could not only look after its own people, but which could extend a hand to more than 100 countries across the world. It is a country. It is an India today. The ambassador spoke about unicorns. Now, many of you know, for example, you know, in the telecom world today, how important it is to have your own 5G. Today, we are the country where the fastest rollout of 5G is happening. So I want to say in many ways, you know, if there is a spring in our step, a confidence in our voice, a sort of squaring of our shoulder, there are very good reasons for it. Because it is built today on 10 years of hard work. It is built on, you know, there are domains where, in fact, our capacities have doubled, have tripled. I think it would perhaps come as a surprise to many of you, that as many universities and colleges have been created in the last 10 years as they were existing in the 65 years before that. That is the kind of change today that is taking place in India. Now, in the various discussions that I have been in, I'm often asked saying, okay, you've done this a long time. So tell us, where do you think this relationship is going? Now, it's hard for me today, really, to put a limit on it, to define it, to even voice expectations. Because in every way, ask yourselves, many of you came, some of you would have come here more recently, many of you have been here longer, all of you have tracked the relationship, because this relationship is, after all, your own story. Ask yourself, what did you think 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And would you not agree with me that today, in every way, this relationship has exceeded expectations? Which is why today we don't even try to define it. We actually keep raising the bars. We keep finding new domains. We keep, the more we do with each other, the more we find we are able to explore together, to achieve together. So for me, in this changing world, because the world is truly changing, if you look at the state of the world, the challenges before the world, the relationships of countries, I would say today, India and the United States have moved to a position where we really see each other as very desirable, optimal partners, comfortable partners, with whom it's a natural instinct today to pick up the phone, or if you meet somewhere, to have a conversation, to share your anxieties, to explore your solutions. So the chemistry and the comfort today of the relationship, this today gives me enormous hope about where the prospects are. A concrete aspect of that is actually the world itself. That this is a world of greater technology. That everything we do, from the phone you use, I see it in everybody's hand, to the cars in which you drove in, to any transaction that you do. In every way today, technology has penetrated deep into our lives. Now, because technology has penetrated so deep, this is not just a question anymore of business. It's a question of security. It is a question of privacy. It is actually our, what we have put out there about ourselves is sometimes more than we know. So it is today not just a question of, which partner are you best off working, who gives you the best terms. It is very much today, who are your trusted partners? In my business, foreign policy, if there's one big change, it is the frequency of the word trust. That people look at other countries, at other leaders, at other situations, and ask themselves, can I trust this country or this leadership or this counterpart? And today, so beyond chemistry, beyond comfort, to me, it is the trust quotient of this relationship, which has really made it very unique. Now, there are a lot of let me give you a few examples. Within India, at one level, they looked the most normal people you could think of. Yet, you could feel they were the most special people. And the kind of confidence that they exuded, because I could actually, sitting among them, actually ask them, saying, so how tense were you guys? Did you see, were you worried? What were the possibilities of something not going the way you thought? And I must tell you, it was, their confidence, their conviction about the mission was simply amazing. Now, because it stuck so deeply in my mind, a few weeks later, I went to Kerala. Now, in Kerala, they have an institute which trains people for space. Okay. It's called the ISST, I think it's International Space, Indian Space Applications and Technology Institute, something. Anyway, so I went to that institute, and these were BTech, MTech, PhD students. These were people who had the feedstock of our space program. And when you see today what these young people in their graduate and postgraduate degree processes, what they are capable of, what they have done, the kind of things which they have themselves invented, which feed, by the way, a lot of it feeds directly into the space program. So I mention this to you because, yes, it's a great achievement. I mean, no question. Yes, we have joined the special club. But today, in many ways, the new India is an India of Chandrayaan, it's an India of CoWIN, it's an India of 5G. This is really what we are capable of. And it is this India today, which the United States also sees. It is this India with which the United States actually has an appetite for working much more closely. Now, it's an interesting discovery I made, that if you look at some of the recent things which India, we've done together, they all start with the alphabet I. So we just spoke about this Middle Eastern corridor. It's called IMEC, India Middle East Economic Corridor. There was an earlier initiative called I2U2. This is India, Israel, United States, UAE. All of you are familiar today with the term Indo-Pacific. Even when it comes to technology, we speak about ISET. Okay. So clearly, the alphabet I think, is very good for the United States. Somewhere, folks, people have figured this one out, Go for the alphabet I, then pick a word. Hopefully there's a country there. There are good people out there. Those are the guys you need to work with. So what I want to say again is that, this relationship today, I started at a time in the early 80s when you actually had to explain where you're from, what you're about. It's good to see members of Congress here. Those are tough days, they didn't even let you into the rooms in the Congress. And there were, at that time, there was no Indian American member of Congress at that time. But if one looks at the journey, how far we've come, and how deep this relationship, how broad this relationship. There is no department in the government today that doesn't have dealings with their Indian or American counterparts as they may be. But I think, as Nisha reminded us, this is not about government. It is something very much bigger. That when we, I see today the levels of interest in second level, third level, sometimes even rural area about the relationship. Again, I'll share with you an experience. We had gone back after Prime Minister Modi's visit. And, many of you know I'm a member of parliament from Gujarat. Okay. So that's not the story. The story is still coming. So we hear, it's often, I'm sure it happens in the US as well, which is members of Congress, members of parliament from a particular state gather together. So we had this evening in the Gujarat State House in Delhi. And there were, a few ministers as well. Prime Minister was good enough to come. All the MPs are there. And then one of the ministers said, there's these folk singers, these people who twang something, they make up the words. It's like a song about what's happening in the world. Now, what was really amazing to me? Here was this folk singer. I think he was from Kutch. Okay, these are people who are, I would say, self-taught, self-educated. They make up things as they go along. And he started singing. He told Prime Minister Modi, saying, I want to sing a song about you. And then when he sang the song, and my Gujarati had to struggle a bit to keep up with it. He sang, actually, there was a bit about Prime Minister's America visit. That today, actually, if a visit to the United States, a Biden-Modi meeting, has entered, the boondocks of India, that if balladeers are making songs about this, that tells you something both about how actually connected we are to the world, but also today, how much in people's mind this relationship matters. So once again, let me say it's great to be back. It's really wonderful to see so many of you, and I really thank the ambassador and his team for bringing you all together. But before I conclude, I do want to say, we are approaching Gandhi Jayanti. And I want to leave a thought with all of you. Mahatma Gandhi was, to say he was an extraordinary man would be the understatement of the century. Okay. We often, we quote him. He said so many things so tellingly. But at the end of the day, if we ask ourselves, okay, so what was the message? The message at the end of the day was about doing the right thing, about doing the decent thing, about leaving no one behind. The Gandhiji's message is very complicated, but its essence is actually very, very simple. So when we took up the G20 presidency, the responsibility, in many ways, I must say that message was at the heart of our thinking. And I say that not just because we had a successful G20 summit. I think what we tried to do in G20, the underlying thinking, reflected what we are trying to do in India, what I think many Americans are trying to do in America, what we, India and America, should be doing with the world, which is to leave no one behind. Now, as a member of parliament, we have districts, even if you're not a directly elected member, there are constituencies or districts for which you have development responsibilities. The district which I have attached myself to is actually what we call an aspirational district called Narmada. I think everybody from Gujarat would certainly know it, but for others, I must say, it's the district with the Statue of Unity. It's a district where, in many ways, it has a large population, tribal population. People have struggled with health, with education, with basic amenities. Today, it is among the fastest transforming districts of India. I mentioned this to you because what we tried to do in the G20, which was to get countries of the global south together, the countries facing problems, 125 of them, and ask them, saying, tell us what your problems are, because you folks are not going to be on the table when the G20 meets. Somebody has to put those problems before the G20. And we believe, as I said, it's the right thing, it is the decent thing that your problems become the focus of the G20. So the G20 is successful, not because, we found the right formulations on a matter as complicated as the conflict in Ukraine. The G20 is successful because we were able to shine the spotlight on the fact today that resources for education, for health, for development, for infrastructure are falling behind. That we speak about saving the planet, but we're not able to resource that dream. That we talk about technology, but do we actually have a vision of a digital public infrastructure which is so central today for a corruption-free, good governance world? And it is because we were able to get the G20 on the right issues. That, to my mind, is what, India's leadership, what India's contribution today is. And I want to recognize one thing, since I'm here standing before a lot of Indian Americans. Obviously, as the host, when things go well, the host always gets the credit. It's reasonable. But the G20 could not have come together if all the members of the G20 did not work for its success. I think particularly, I must say, because I am in this country today, the contribution that, the support and the understanding that we got from the United States to make a successful G20, I think that is something I would certainly like to recognize in public in Washington, D.C. So it may have been our success in a literal way, but I think it was the G20's success. To me, it was also a success of the India-US partnership. So once again, it's great to see all of you. I'm not quite sure what happens in the program, but I want to leave one last thought with you. When I was coming here, these excellent gentlemen of my security detail asked me, saying, so what would it be like when you go to India House? I told them that you'll meet the most disciplined Indian Americans. People who will not rush you, people who will not crowd you, people who will come, people who will come, in groups, stand here. It would be my privilege to get the photograph taken. So I told them, this is an easy evening today. No problems, guys. Now, I hope you don't prove me wrong. Okay. So once again, really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's great to see all of you. And all I can say, please keep giving this partnership the support it needs, the support it deserves, the support it expects. And I can promise you that this relationship, like the Chandrayaan, will go to the moon, maybe even beyond. Okay, thank you.